Doubt I'll ever pay off these school loans.
Good. What's up, guys? My name is Lockin, joined today by teammate Andy. As you can see, he's directly above me, and today we're going to be breaking down the new cards that just got released. How you doing, Andy?
I'm great, man.
All
I'm
right.
glad that I got to join you. And the announcement is exciting, right? So let's jump right in.
Yeah, I agree. 100 new cards for anyone who didn't see. 100 new cards confirmed coming out in mid-December-ish, and we've got 20 of them today. Super hyped for them, so we'll just jump right in, going straight from. We'll just go top down. The first card is the neutral Wyvern Scale Shield, and it's a special card. It reads boost a unit by the initial power of a unit in your hand. What are your first thoughts on this?
I think this is pretty easy to use. That's the first benefit that comes to mind. Like you just need like some Guardian or Vanilla Geralt or like even some of the new cards with 5 base strength. And then you get like a better Swallow Potion, right?
Yeah, that's true. It is just strictly better than Swallow Potion, but I think Swallow Potion is pretty garbage, and I think personally,
Yeah.
I think this card's pretty bad too.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
I don't think, unless there's like an insane item synergy coming in here, because it is like a new keyword is item. Unless there's some insane item synergies coming in high, I think this card is like pretty bad, right?
Yeah, by itself it's pretty bad. It's probably like unplayably bad. But imagine like a card, like 3 strength, get an item card, a bronze item card off of your deck. Might be alright already. Like probably not even good, but alright already.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe not good, but definitely not like terrible by any means.
Yeah. Doesn't look too strong, but it doesn't have to be, right? It's a neutral spell card. We've seen that with all the spell cards basically in the game, like Araka's Venom, Beer, like just base power something, some points on the board.
So the next card is Peasant Militia, and it's just a neutral special that says fill a row with peasants. And what's really interesting about this card is it's fill a row. So what that means is eventually there has to be a stopping point, because there's currently not a limit on the number of cards that you can put in a row in Gwent. So there's got to be some sort of limit that they're introducing.
Yeah, I guess we can assume like some numbers on that, right? I guess if it would be like something like 15, it would be like pretty strong already. So that's probably too much. I guess maybe like 10 peasants would be pretty good, because you do swarm the board a lot. So yeah, I think this is major telegraph for us to that the roles will change and there will be a limit, right?
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about was if maybe the way to balance this card is fill a row with peasants, and then the card says like max 8 or max 7 or something. Because the problem is if you limit a row to something like 10 units, it's not enough, because sometimes you stack a row. Like sometimes if Hinsult plays a really long round, he might end up stacking a row a decent amount, and you don't want your row limit to really inherently affect like a normal game. But if you make the row limit too high, this card gets really, really powerful. Because imagine having only one siege support on the field, and you play this, and suddenly, let's say the row limit is like 10, and you've got 2 units on every row.
Yeah.
You play this, and it's not, you fill the row with 8 peasants, but because of your one siege support, it's a 16-point bronze. It has a lot of potential to be really broken, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's true. They probably don't want to like limit the decisions you make, like on which row you play cards, just because of this card or like a few ones. So yeah, this was probably going to happen. Like yeah, I agree. Looks decent. Depends a lot on how the game mechanics will turn out and how much swarm support there is, and there will still be when this card gets released, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's sort of hard to evaluate this card until we actually see really what the row limit is and more about the card, but I think it has a lot of potential to be a real problem card.
Yeah.
Up next is Lesser Demons, and it's the dog and the cat, and it reads, move a unit from your deck to your hand, then discard a random card. And to be honest, my first thought is this card is sort of bad. When I first read the card, I thought it could maybe be okay. Like, you, for example, play the card at the end of a round, and then you discard like a bad card. But the problem is you move a unit from your deck to your hand, and before you have a chance to play that card, you do have to discard a random card. So let's say you really want like your John Natalis. You move your Natalis from your deck to your hand, and then you have a chance to just discard your John Natalis. So I think the card is not super good. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty random.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't think it's particularly powerful, but it's. I mean, if you compare it to cards with similar base strength and like similar ability, like if you compare it to Sarah or Johnny, for example, it has upsides, right? I mean, you
Yeah, for
really
sure.
can like you can high roll this a lot. Like you put in your coral and then you discard your radar. Spicy.
Yeah, something Matisse mentioned, because Matisse is a big mill player, is he said he could see himself putting this card in his deck with mill because it's so important to draw Avalok, and so you play Lesser Demon, you draw Avalok, and then you just pray you don't instantly discard the Avalok. But yeah, I mean it's
And in mill, sometimes you have even a lot of cards in your hand as well. Guarding exactly Avalok are kind of low, I guess.
yeah, and you have a
Huh.
lot. You have a lot of cards that are kind of bad that you just put in there just to put in there. So
Yeah, it looks swell.
yeah, I agree. It's got a cool premium. I don't think we're gonna see it in any tier 1 decks, to be honest.
No, probably not.
And then speaking of having a cool premium but not being seen in any of the decks is Saskia Dragonfire, 8 strength, and banish your hand and draw that many cards. What do you think about this card first glance?
I think this has to be a meme card.
Yeah.
This has to be. Because if it's not, if it wouldn't be, it's too ridiculous, the effect. Like, what, with this card in your hand, like, what are you doing with the game? Like, you mulligan your gold cards away to get rid of your bronzes or something? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. I think looks terrible, but looks fun. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I think it's okay to have some like memeier cards in a game that are like made for fun. Something that I was thinking about that I'm not really sure on is maybe you play a card like maybe Saskia is not meant for like the normal game modes. Maybe Saskia is a card like Avalok the Sage, which is made for the new coming game modes. Like let's say we have a draft format coming and you have to draft a couple bad cards. So you play all of your good cards and then you play Saskia and you banish your hand and then you draw some more of your good cards because you get rid of all your bad cards you were forced to draft. I'm not saying it's good. It's not worth it at all. I'm not saying it's good. I think it's a terrible card, but it's got a cool premium and maybe it has a randomly sometimes good effect. But to be honest, I don't think self-mill is usually like a good way to build your deck.
No, but I like it. It's
yeah.
It shouldn't be overpowered. It's good.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
Cool art. Yeah. Okay.
And then the next one is Geralt Yrden. Apologies if I said that wrong. 10 strength, reset all units, and remove their tokens. My first glance, I think, on this card is really, really powerful. I think this, in the right meta, has the potential to be the strongest card that they've revealed so far.
It might be. It might not be too. Like yeah, this is powerful. This has potential to be a round 1 finisher against buff heavy decks. But I would always be careful over cards that do win a round for you. Okay, so we had to compare this to like old Menno, which I agree. Like when he killed all the spies, for example, right?
Yeah.
And even like Igni when it was like when you more on a regular basis could hit like more units, and you hit stuff with only 20 power on a row as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, round one finishers have somewhat of an inherent problem that they can only do so much, which you can win one round. Yeah, but this being 10 base strength does a lot for this card. So yeah, I think it's powerful. Just don't want to like overhype it for now. Don't know if it will stay 10. This version, yeah, probably pretty good.
Yeah,
Maybe insane.
I think that's a fair point. I think you think I actually like your point of view on this the most. I think when I first saw this, maybe I overhyped the card a little bit too much. I thought, wow, this is nuts. This is going in like 50% of the decks in the meta. Like you could play it in like a control Eridan that plays like Frost because you're killing units. You're not worried about the reset healing. Or you can play it in like Skellig A and beat like spies and stuff. But you make a good point. We don't know really how good these decks are going to be moving forward. We need to see the meta. You make a really good point about round one finishers, because a lot of times if you lose the coin flip and you play a big round one finisher, you play this huge round one finisher and then they just pass. So
yeah.
All right, yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. The next card is actually one of my favorites to talk about, is Werewolf, and it's a 7 strength unit, and it reads immune, strengthened by 7 on contact with Moonlight. So Moonlight, we don't really know what that is, so we can't really evaluate the card until we see what Moonlight exactly is. But one of the things I really like about the card is that they're bringing immune back. I think immune is a really cool like ability and feature in small doses. I think a lot of golds being, or all golds being immune is not healthy for the game as a whole. I think the gold update did a lot for the game, but I think immune in small doses is a really cool ability. If I had to guess what Moonlight was going to be, I'm going to guess it's like a boon similar to what Ale of the Ancestors does. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. Like Moonlight makes like it's a guessing game at this point, of course, but for me it's the most likely that it is like not a hazard effect. The positive weather kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's it called?
The boons with like
the boons,
yeah,
exactly. So this being 14, like I assume your deck you can get it off, right? So is 14 strength immune bronze card. Looks pretty good to me. I think this has a lot of potential. It only depends like how much effort have you do you have to do in order to like get this Moonlight synergy to be consistent. And yeah, I also agree on the immune tags are in general, not even only immune, in general a very good like this passive ability kind of tags, right?
Mm-hmm.
A very good way to give cards another way to like add basically add layers to different cards, because we only have this one number. Makes it kind of difficult for Gwent to have a huge pool of cards with different effects and strengths and weaknesses. So this is cool. I like this.
Yeah. I actually agree with everything you said 100%. If when you have, like you said, when there's only this one number on the card, it can be sometimes hard to make each card feel like its own. But I really agree that adding these like passive effects and these other effects on it really make each card feel like its own. And I really agree with what you said. Until we know how much you have to sacrifice to play Moonlight, we can't really evaluate the card. So
thumbs up for the flavor as well.
Yeah, I really like the flavor too. The whole immune the style of just like lore behind it, where they can only be affected by silver weapons and things like that. Really cool. So
I would love to see a Witcher card like Geralt Silver Sword and like I don't know, cursed beasts or something. Destroy 2 cursed beasts or something.
Yeah, that would be a really cool card. As like a tech card, like just like cursed Skellig is really good. Like there's something I didn't think I'd say, but cursed Skellig, that's something we'll probably talk about later in the video as well. So yeah. Moving on, Striga. Or Striga, I'm not 100% sure to be honest, is a relic. It's cursed, it's 5 strength, and it's deal 8 damage to a non-monster unit. What do you think about this one, Andy?
So I think it's weak.
Really?
So that sounds weird, yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, we've seen Eskel and Muzzle like removal options being quite good in the meta.
Hmm.
By its own though, for a silver card, it's not that powerful. I think we've seen cards like it's basically like Nithral
It
for
is.
me.
It is. It is
Yeah,
a similar card to Nithril, if, in my opinion, a little bit better. But okay, keep going. I
it
like
is. It is a little bit better. Yeah, non-monster unit. I mean, most of the you'll see are non-monster units. So yeah,
yeah.
it is. I mean, it's just not as good as it looks. Probably, I feel because we've seen Nithral in literally like no Eredin deck ever
Yeah, that's true.
that has been like competitive. So and that may surprise people because we go for this gold removal cards, but silver cards kind of have to embrace your bronze. Yeah, your game plan, and
Yeah, yeah.
this is
You're.
not doing that.
I actually really like that point because I think a lot of times when people deck build, they want to deck build around these big gold cards to do a lot. But
Yeah.
what's really important nowadays in Gwent is big bronze packages. I think most of the top tier decks really center around bronze packages that just play the golds that enable this or golds that really help the theme. So I think that's a
Yeah.
really good point actually, that your silvers a lot of the times need to be enabling your bronze package. So
Yeah,
that's
and
something I
even the
didn't think
golds,
about.
like
Yeah.
even tutor golds and tutor silvers, for example, are like a
Yeah,
big thing in the game, and will
Rainfarn and
be moving
Natalis are
on.
very
Yeah,
powerful, so I definitely agree. So yeah, maybe I do like I think I like it a little bit more than you do. I do think the card is like pretty decent. I think it's a little bit better than Nithril because Nithril is like a 5 deal 5 or 5 deal 7. So I think dealing
deal
8
7. I mean, if you put it into your deck, you deal 7, right? It's
sometimes.
not that conditional.
Uh, okay, fair enough. I do think maybe I overhyped it a little bit, so maybe you're onto something here. Maybe it's not as good as I thought.
But
Some
when you
it
look at it on the onto the next card, you see like there's still a bit of potential on this. I'm not. I don't want to call this off for now, but I'm just
hmm.
saying like this is going to be a niche card. This is my call on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually ties into what I was gonna mention next was the next card and this card are both relics, and we are seeing relic being pushed a little bit more. The next card is Weavis Incantation, one of the crones, and she is a 4 strength body and she has a choose one effect, strengthen all allied relics by 2, or play a bronze or silver relic from your deck and strengthen it by 2. My first thought is this card is really powerful, but I'm not sure if the archetype surrounding it is good enough. So, what do you think on this?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very powerful. I mean, we have very few relics at the moment,
Hmm.
especially bronze relics, right? We have the crones, we have like the 11 base strength. How is it called? I don't know.
The fiends that are
The fiends,
the
yeah,
fiend is 8, and then it's strengthened by 3 if you have a relic in hand. And then
exactly.
the
Yeah.
other relics I can remember off the top of my head, there's Morvud, which is the silver lock that damages by half.
There's
There's
woodland
and caretaker.
and
So
caretaker.
I believe those are like most of the viable relics. Like
And the crones, right? The crones, yeah.
Crones are viable as well. I don't think they're with the power
Great.
creep. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
power creep of cards coming, and especially in this new expansion where we're seeing a lot of powerful cards introduced, it's really hard to justify 3 silvers for what you're getting. But
Although, like when you play this, it's,
yeah,
it's 24 points.
it's a good way to,
Sacrifices 4 slots.
it forces people out of the round a lot, which is like really
Mm.
powerful, but it's not super good to always force someone out of the round if you, for example, don't win the coin flip, because then you're still a card down and you've used 4 of your, big cards to force them out and you're still a card down. But I think this could be a really powerful combo if you win the coin
Yeah.
flip. Something I do think is really powerful about this card too is I think most of the time Weavis is going to be used to play a bronze or silver relic rather than strengthen. It's unlikely that's really ever going to be better. The strengthen effect by 2, well, or just the fact that she strengthens in general rather, is interesting because a lot of the times in these relic decks you play cards like Fiend and then Ghoul, and you try to consume the fiends. Because this card strengthens, it does make all of your ghouls and all of the consumes you'll be doing a little bit better. Not by a lot, but I think...
Of course, yeah, by a lot. 2, man, that's big.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
2. When I say not by a lot, I mean not by, like, enough to make the deck, like, super, super powerful instantly without seeing the rest of the cards, but enough that it's notable, and I do agree with that.
I just want to say that,
go ahead,
that this card has a lot of potential, and even it's not bad already. Like, we have the Striga, we have the Fiend, and we have the Crons. So if you have the choice of these 3 options, you have a pretty good pool already, right? Like, you won the coin flip, you play this into Crons, great. You won, you lost the coin flip, they play. You got the Fiend when you want it, great. They play a unit you want to remove, you play this into Striga, good as well. So pretty diverse options there. I like it, and there probably will be more. So I'm looking forward to this. I really like this.
Yeah,
strong.
I agree. Some last thing I want to touch on is really not this card in particular, but is the choose one effect. Actually, I have a small background in Hearthstone, and I know Andy does as well. Is actually Druid. And it's not just because of the choose one effect, it's a lot of things, but Druid has never really been lower than tier 2, no matter what. And one of the reasons I think is because of choose one. I think Druid has never paid enough for their choose one effects, and that's a big deal. I think versatility is often underlooked for what it it's very underrated for what it brings. It's one of the reasons that when Derogare was first dropped, a lot of people just put him in a lot of decks because he's very consistent, because he gives you all these options. He was a big reason that you ran him in Skellig A before the restore nerf, because you could restore him and you could get a lot of value out of his versatility. The Drowner was never bad. Usually it was an Ekimara, but the point is, these cards that give you options are just even better than their numbers imply, because of that reason. Options are powerful, because being able to adapt to what your opponent is doing is very powerful. So there's a lot of choose one effects coming, and I think that's going to be really interesting to track moving forward.
And the options are cool. I really like
the
direction, like the micro decisions.
Shinmari made a good point too, that someone had told him the other day in chat that all of the decks in this meta feel very consistent. They all are very refined. They all thin down pretty well, and so a lot of times games can feel very similar. And something that is really cool about this is that he mentioned is the choose one effect is cool, because when you have all these choices to make, it makes each game a lot of times feel a little bit different, even if you're playing the same matchup again. And I think that's really good.
Which is exactly what Gwent needs.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to Nilfgaard, which is maybe one of the most powerful cards in this. Not maybe. The only maybe is this the most powerful card? It's definitely powerful. It's the Viper School Witcher. It's a 7 strength bronze, and it deals 3 damage, increased damage dealt by 1 for each alchemy card in your initial deck. Andy, I know you like this card. Take it away.
Yeah, this is nuts, right? Bonkers. This is very good. Like, I wanna give a shout out here to the old soldier guy that deals 6 and deals 5 damage if you have a soldier. Rip that guy.
yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, this is very strong, and this will, I think at some point, maybe not right away, because I don't know how many alchemy cards will be in the set. But yeah, I think already probably this will enable a new archetype, and it's so interesting from a deck building perspective too, because you really can like adjust your deck, like how much damage do I even want to deal? Do I want to put more alchemy cards in the deck in order to deal more damage, or do I want to put less because alchemy cards are slightly worse than the cards I would pull in if I wouldn't play this card? Yeah. We don't know the synergies exactly, but this card on its own looks very strong already. I like it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And just to sort of touch up on what you were saying as well, I actually really like cards that incentivize deck building. I like cards that reward decisions you make well before the game, well before you ever hit find a match. And I think that's really cool that there's a card like this that increases the damage dealt by the initial number of alchemy cards, because like you said, alchemy cards are on average worse. The best alchemy card is probably at the moment beer, just because it has a very simple effect of points. Yeah. And so, but at its best, it's 12, and that's not necessarily great. But you can put, it's sort of a question of how many of these do I want in my deck. We don't really know what the meta is. If Spies remains untouched and still comes out on tier 1, well, then you only need to put 3, 4-ish alchemy cards, 5-ish if you want to try to snipe a brigade after just one alchemy card in your deck, because that's what you're going for. But let's say you're trying to tech for something different. Now you need much more. And then what's cool about this is this pushes an archetype that already exists. It pushes cards like Vikovara Novice and Vesemir along a lot. So I actually really agree that this card is really, really powerful, and I like actually what it's doing. It's pushing an already sort of weak archetype.
Maybe though, if like damage is getting so, if damage is so easy accessible, which is like a trend we've seen in Gwent in general, I think. Like that every deck really has like some ways or even like many ways to deal damage. We kind of need to see a bit more of like protection tools for our units, like the Werewolf, for example, the immune tag, or like something like great swords, the long ships. Because if this snipes your long ship, man,
yeah, it feels really bad. I think that's actually a really, really good point. Back in the day, and like during the gold immunity, there was a Radovid control deck that just ran like Alzur's Thunder. And like, it's crazy to think about that, just decks that didn't really benefit from spell synergy just hard ran Alzur's Thunder because damage was a lot harder to come across. And now it's much more normal for this damage to be, easily accessible, like you said. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. So let's go.
All right, yeah. The next card is quite bad. I'll go ahead and just jump into this one. It's I don't know if this is cadaverine, or we'll just go with cadaverine venom or cadaverine. And essentially it's a choose one effect. It's a silver special, and it's deal 2 damage to an enemy and all units that share its categories, or destroy a bronze or silver neutral unit. So my first thought is the deal 2 damage to an enemy and all units that share its category. So for what that means exactly, let's say, for example, you play Cadaverine Venom and you play the card on a card like Striga, for example. Striga is a relic and it is cursed. So when you play this card, the effect will deal 2 damage to the Striga, and then all units on the board, yours or your opponent's, that have a relic or cursed tag. The sort of nice thing about this is Nilfgaard doesn't really share tags with a lot of other units, so you don't have to worry too much about damaging your units. But overall, I think the card is pretty bad. I think it's usually just going to be a worse overdose potion. Destroying a bronze or silver neutral unit is not that good. There's not a lot of neutral bronze and silvers that see play all the time that you really need to be destroying. Another problem with the card is Nilfgaard has, in my opinion, probably the best silvers in the game, or some of the best. So it's competing for a silver slot in a faction that already has top tier silvers. Overall, I don't think the card is very good. What do you think, Andy?
Looks terrible.
Yeah.
Just that. I mean, we need a really, really insane tutor card for this to see play. I mean, it even damages your own units if they share the categories, which is huge in the mirror and in classes with like soldier tags. They hit each other up, and the other choose effect is, I mean, it's pretty bad too.
Yeah, I mean
the best you can get is like you get pretty big Jenge or something, but.
No, it's a neutral unit. So
yeah.
So at best you're hitting like a cleaver. You're like cleaver meta incoming, then maybe you're playing Cadaverine Venom, but I don't see that being very likely. So the fact
You
that
don't
it's
want to kill a 9 with that,
yeah,
man.
exactly. It's pretty bad. So even in its best case scenario where it destroys like a bronze or silver neutral, it's still bad. So I think we can safely say this card is not going to be seeing competitive play.
Yeah.
All right. The next card is actually the card that I am personally most excited for. Well, maybe okay. This is the card I think could be the best. And this is like I'm really excited about, but so am I for Letho Kingslayer. It's a 4 strength gold card and it has a choose one, destroy an enemy leader on the board and set self to 11, or play a bronze or silver tactic card from your deck. And personally, I think this has the potential to be the strongest card that they've revealed, up there with like Yrden and School of the Wolf Viper. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, for me as well. Like this is, I really like the Nilfgaard, the two of the Nilfgaard card, the Witcher Nilfgaard card. This is great. I mean, I really like. First of all, I really like that this is a gold card for Nilfgaard that's not like reliant on the spy deck.
For sure.
Uh, and it has I think most of the time you'll use it for the second part,
Yeah.
the silver tactics card, so basically an Natalis kind of effect, which is still pretty good.
Yeah, it's
4, I think.
Natalis is a pretty good card, and I think even at 4 you'd still take it.
Yeah.
I
mean, I expect Nilfgaard tactics to be pretty good tactics, to be fair. they have some juicy tactics, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. And if you snipe an 30-point adrenaline rushed unseen elder guy, you clip that and get front page on Reddit.
Yeah. One of the things that initially looked at this is, again, we see Unseen Elder being just in a really bad spot. I think if you play Unseen Elder the way that some people are right now, where you go Woodland Spirit into Unseen Elder to eat the little wolves, and your Unseen Elder is only 8, even if your Unseen Elder is only 8 and you did get the consume value, this Letho would still hit it for 19. And that's a very consistent value. That's consistently good. I mean, like,
or Emir, yeah, for example.
Yeah, or even Emir, yeah. He's going to consistently find value even if he has to take the leader portion, which is something that can be nice because while not often, there are times where your Natalis is dead. And Letho's never really afraid of that. And I think one of the things that also makes this so good is the fact that, again, it's choose one, and choose one is great in decks that want to have a lot of options. Nilfgaard historically has been very good at setting up options and being very flexible, so I think choose one is very good in a faction like this. Something I was going to ask you about that someone mentioned earlier that I saw was, is it perhaps okay to make Unseen Elder immune? So that Unseen Elder doesn't just instantly die to cards like Letho, for example.
I think Unseen Elder would be probably best off to be something like untargetable, so it can't be made resilient, but it can be like, so you just can't target it.
Well, actually,
I think being able to scorch it is fine.
Well, that actually is what immune is. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I'll explain immune real quick for you and for anyone else watching who is unaware. When you are immune, you still take damage from AoE effects. So like overdose still damages you. It means you were completely unable to be targeted. So Unseen Elder could still be scorched. It could still be gignied. So you can't just hide all of your power on your Elder. The thing is, he cannot be targeted. Locks cannot click him. Eskel cannot target something that is immune. You can't thunder it. So it can't be targeted, like you said. So like you said, literally, what you said is actually what immune is. It's untargetable. And I think
I like that.
I think Elder would be in a much healthier spot if he could be untargetable, because the addition of Letho means that current Necker deck that exists that tries to go all in on Neckers, where it uses Elder to eat the Neckers and pull out more with Necker Warriors, that deck is dead once Letho drops.
Bit. But I mean, it's kind of, it would be say the same. I mean, there are already cards in the game that heavily punish this deck, but because they're not played that often, uh,
Well,
it still works, I
they're
guess.
played somewhat, but you just hope you don't queue. You just hope you don't queue into
Exactly.
Hinsel. You just sort of
I
you.
think I think actually the biggest point about Letho is that this choose one allows you to, if need be, you can just pull if all the other tactics cards are bad, but there's like one tactics card that is like completely busted, then you play only one tactics card in Letho and you're which you can't do with Natalis at all.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the big part for me. Like you always have the backup plan if you draw your tactics cards, which you maybe want every game, and this increases the consistency to get
Yeah,
it right. Good card.
Nilfgaard is a faction that could easily abuse tactics. They're a faction that lore-wise has a lot of tactics. They're very political. So I think this card has a lot of potential. At the moment, I think it is currently my favorite for most powerful card up there with Yurden. But we'll go ahead and move on. Just a lot to say on that card. Big card. I would definitely look for it in the coming expansion. We're going to move over to Northern Realms. And the first card is Wench. It's a special card and it spawns a bronze Northern Realms machine and boosts it by 2. Before we get into what this card is, let me explain what spawn is for those unaware. Spawn is actually being changed. It is a current keyword in the game, but on the reveal stream they explained that it's different now. The way spawn works is it's a discover effect from Hearthstone. You were offered 3 cards from the collection, so it's not just cards in your deck, it is cards from the collection. You were offered 3 of those cards and you get to choose one. Personally, I think Discover is a perfectly fine RNG mechanic in small doses. I think when cards begin to go over the top, like for example Primordial Glyph in Hearthstone, for those who are aware of what that card does, or cards that just are too much RNG is a problem, but a small amount of RNG is not super bad. So what this card does is it shows you 3 options of a bronze Northern Realms machine. So cards like Battering Ram, Reinforced Ballista, Catapult, Trebuchet, and it then boosts it by 2. So what are your thoughts on this, Andy?
So I think I want to say something about this. And people complaining that this is too much RNG. No, no way.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very much different than Discover in Hearthstone, in
yeah.
my opinion. Because when you have a card in Hearthstone that says like Discover a mage spell, like mage spells are super different. Like there are trash ones and there are crazy ones.
Mm-hmm.
And a bronze Northern Realms machine, man, you get offered like 3 very similar choices that sometimes you get like when you choose the right one you get like benefit of 6 or 5 value.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very fine for me from a design wise.
Agree.
And I think it's powerful. I think this is pretty much looks like an auto include to a machine deck for me. The only downside I see is that it's actually not a unit, so you can tutor it out of River Scout or Hand Tilt, and it's more like and it doesn't get buffed by. So
Well,
this looks like a Radovid machine card.
here's something interesting for you that I like, because I agree with everything you said. I think it's perfectly fine to have this sort of like, and I say RNG in quotes because I don't even really consider this to be that much RNG.
Yeah.
I think that you can actually abuse this. I shouldn't say even abuse. I don't think it's going to be broken. I do think it's very, very good. I think it's a great card. You can play Wench, spawn a Ballista, boost the Ballista by 2 to 8, and then you can Hinsult out all 3 of the Ballistas for like super thinning if you wanted to.
I hope this doesn't work. I hope there's something in the game that prevents that from happening, man. That
I
sounds very powerful, yeah.
I don't think there's going to be anything that stops that. Can you think of anything? Because I don't see why it wouldn't. You spawn in the machine, you take it, and it's not from your deck. So now there are 3 copies of that machine in your deck, and you Hinsult out all 3 copies for an insane tempo play. I think Wench is going to be really, really good.
I mean, I want them to hedge. So I guess it's only yeah. So yeah, I agree. You're right on that. Yeah, but in fall test, yeah, you lose a point there.
Yeah.
So I think this card's great.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving up next, we have Vincent, a silver card. 8 strength, he's cursed and a beast, and he reads, destroy the armor of all units, then boost self by half the value destroyed. So he is a throwback to like, or not even really a throwback, he is essentially a Dun Banner heavy cavalry, but instead of targeting 2 units like it used to, you destroy all of the armor on all units, not just your side, but your opponent's side. And then you boost yourself by half of the value. And half is a lot. I do think that this card would see a lot more play and would make armor a pretty good archetype if it wasn't for the half tag. I do think this card actually makes armor better. Something to consider is I don't think you run Vincent and heavy cavalry in the same deck. I think if you play a card like Vincent, you're doing different things. I think Vincent synergizes very well with cards like Redanian Elite and Trollolo, where you play Redanian Elites and then you play Trollolo, or not in that order. You play the Trollolo first for more armor, obviously, but you play Redanian Elites and Trollolo, and then you Vincent, and Vincent buffs himself by 2 for each armor he rips off the Redanian Elite, but then he also buffs the Redanian Elites themselves, and he doesn't have to waste his target getting less armor. So I do think Vincent has merit. I'm not convinced that armor is a good enough archetype overall to warrant it. What are your thoughts, Sue?
I think that's good, to be fair. I mean, I agree with you, what you said, that this has, even though it looks that it's not, but it has anti-synergy with the Dun Banner, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Because we don't want to remove all the armor.
Yeah.
But maybe it's like you have a one of Dun Banner and one of these.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure if this goes into the same deck as Trollolo. Like, I'm thinking about something like 3 elites and then you Vincent them, which is 33 points from the elites.
Mm-hmm.
And then you remove 15 armor, so this gains 7. Is it rounding up or rounding down?
I actually don't know. I want to say rounding down, but I don't have any information.
So let's say 7. So it's 15 and 33, which would be 48.
Yep.
Right? 48 out of 4 cards, not in deck. Yeah, it's not that crazy, I think.
Yeah,
but it's decent.
I think it's decent. I agree. I don't think it's crazy, but I do think it's decent. The next card is actually the card I'm most excited for. I'm not saying that it's the card that is going to be good, but I am super excited for this card. Going to craft a premium of this like right away. The art for it is insane. It's Selkirk. Some of you might remember him from The Witcher 2. He's an officer. He's cursed. He's a 7 strength gold card, and his text reads, duel an enemy, gain 3 armor. And duel is a new keyword. I do not have a background in Magic. People that have told me this is very similar to the fight keyword in Magic. The way duel works is this. When Selkirk comes into play, he deals his current strength to an enemy. You choose the enemy. So let's say there's a vanilla Geralt on the other side. Selkirk deals 7 damage. Let's say you're playing full test. We'll just say for the sake of this, you're playing full test. And so Selkirk is at an 8. You play your 8 strength Selkirk. You hit the 13 strength Geralt. Geralt goes down to 5. Geralt has 5 strength remaining, so he hits Selkirk with the other 5 remaining power he has. And Selkirk goes from 8 power with 3 armor down to 6. Now Selkirk is at 6 and Geralt is at 5. Selkirk then deals his other 6 remaining power back to Geralt because they duel until one of them dies. Selkirk deals his 6 to Geralt and Geralt dies, and you are left with a 6 strength Selkirk afterwards. Someone did the math, and if you play like just a vanilla Selkirk at 7 strength, you can duel a 12 strength guy successfully. A 12 strength guy is like the cutoff because you deal 7, he goes to 5, he deals 5 to you, and then you go to 5, and then you have just enough damage to do the remaining 5 to him. It is a little confusing. I hope I explained it well enough.
So how much value do you get out of this when you hit a 12?
Not very much is the problem. Because the thing is, you're getting, when you play this card, you're hitting the 12 and you kill the 12. But you also take 2 damage yourself on Selkirk, so it's really only 14. The card itself is not that appealing to me right away. Even if you play full test, the card is not that much better. The card is going to be worth like 16 instead of 14, and it's still not that good. The problem is I don't want to play Royal Decree in this in Northern Realms because we have cards like John Natalis that I want to play. We have cards like Shawnee that I want to play. We have cards like Dijkstra. If I put Selkirk in, Selkirk is now my 4th gold. And even though it would be really cool to play Royal Decree and buff Selkirk up and play him, I'm having to cut a very, very powerful card to do so. So my instinct is Selkirk is not necessarily a super competitive card, but I think he's a very cool card.
Yeah, I agree. I would say the same. I mean, obviously the players, you play against buff Geralt, they play the buff guy, you summoning circle it, Selkirk goes to 20, and then you win. No, that's pretty memey, but
Yeah.
it is very cool flavor and premium PogChamp, so...
Yeah, the premium is
Maybe
really
they change
cool.
the numbers on this. I hope so.
Yeah, I actually think a card like this is super cool. There's a lot of math to do with this card very quickly that you have to do. Your turn is not super long, so you do have to do a lot of math very quickly with this card. I think it's a cool card. It's 14. The card is really never going to be better than Eskel. It's like kind of the same as Muzzle in a certain way. It can be a little bit better than Muzzle sometimes. They like the points line up similar to Muzzle. I just don't think the card is good enough to play in a deck that already has very good golds, but it is super cool. All right, moving on to Scoia'tael, my favorite faction. Little, to be honest, disappointed by some of the cards revealed so far. We still have a lot to go though, so I'm sure we'll get to them. This one is Half Elf Hunter. It's a bronze unit with 3 strength, and it reads, spawn a copy of this unit. So on the stream, the value of the card was 6, and on this page, the value is 3. Berza did say on Twitter that the values are subject to change, so for the sake of this, we'll just say 3, because that's what it shows on the page. I think even if this card is 6, I don't think it's good enough to play. And I'm gonna sort of talk a little bit too lengthy here and bore some of you guys with this, but I think hand buff is a meme that should be let dead, just left alone. I think hand buff is inherently not a great archetype. I think cards like Dragoon and Hawker Support are very weak. I think they require too much setup in a situation where losing the coin flip means getting forced out of the round very early. I think that hand buff inherently has problems with the system like Gwent, where playing for value later with your cards without doing anything to really impact the board right away is a sort of a bigger problem. And I think the punish is too strong. I think the fact that they're pushing hand buffed so hard is one of the biggest reasons that, in my opinion, Scoia'tael is the weakest faction. We've seen these constant cards pushed for Scoia'tael, and because of it, we've actually seen, I think, Scoia'tael fall to be the worst faction. I don't think you want to buff Half-Elf Hunter more than you want to buff your Swordmaster, so now he's sort of stealing points away from your other cards. I don't think you have room to play him in a hand buff deck. I think there's a lot of problems. I know I talked a lot, Andy, so I'm going to throw it over to you now. I just feel very passionately about Scoia'tael, and I don't really think hand buff is a good enough mechanic or archetype to keep pushing. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's interesting either. I mean, this card is basically a bit better than the Swordmaster, right?
Yeah.
This has slightly better numbers, doesn't do damage, but I think it's fine. I mean, you kind of want the Swordmaster, okay? So dealing damage with them is weird. I mean, sometimes it's great, but most of the time it's not very impactful. So I think this is not terrible, to be fair. I guess I disagree a bit on that, but I mean, it's more about the buff cards at this point. I mean, this is okay.
I actually agree. I think this card is okay, but I think the buff cards and the archetype itself are too weak to
Yeah.
to play this. That's how I should have worded it.
For me, like the biggest offender of that is Hawker Smuggler, right?
Yeah.
6 strength, 3 power, 3 boost. Like that's not even good if you hit this guy.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, so let's move on.
Yeah. Next one is, I don't know if this is Milan Malayan. I'm not actually sure. I didn't catch it on the stream. And it's a 5 strength silver Skellig unit that reads deal 4 damage to the units at the end of a row. So my other first instinct is this card is terrible, but Andy, I'm gonna let you take this one.
I agree. I mean, what's the potential of this card?
0.
Like what?
Yeah, 0.
No, how many times can you
No, once. It's once.
wait? Deal 4 damage to the units at the end of the row.
No, it's not. It's just a row. It's just one row. It is a 13 strength silver that doesn't kill off an engine when it's played. Because for example, if this card read deal damage equal to your current power to the units at the end of a row, now that card has some potential to be super broken. The problem is Malayan's just not really that appealing, because let's assume you're trying to snipe off their engines, which by the way, no engines die to 4 damage, but let's assume that you are. If your opponent wants to play around this card, they play all of their engines in the middle of the row. So, and then you're not even hitting relevant cards. I don't think this card is good at all.
Yeah. Why though? I don't get this card.
Yeah, I actually tried to understand it too. I'm hoping that there's going to be some other cards revealed that make this card make sense, because their balanced team usually knows what they're doing and they understand it. Printing just a vanilla 13 damage card is a little random, I think. I think there may be some cards coming that may synergize with this in some way. I'm not sure how. I don't know what would actually have to happen. I do know that there is a row change coming, so the row change may mean that this card has more merit than we see. I'm not sure. I'm very skeptical of this card. If as of right now the card is awful, it's one of the worst cards in the game. Actually, in my opinion, it steals a silver slot to deal 4 damage twice on a pretty low strength body. But I think hopefully there's something more to this, because it does seem a little weird. I agree.
Okay, because I thought like you could shoot like multiple rows with this, then will be broken, but yeah, it's not, so it's bad.
Yeah.
For now.
For now. All right.
Okay.
The next one is Engram Outlaw. He's a 3 strength gold unit, and he reads choose 1. Which, by the way, we're noticing is a big theme of this expansion at the moment, where all of the gold cards are sort of just these choose 1 effects. Which I think is good. I like that they're introducing all these decisions. And it's spawn a silver special card or spawn a silver Skellig unit. At first glance, I thought this card was going to be a little nuts. But then I found out that spawn only works with, or spawn doesn't work with cards in your deck. It's any card in the collection. And I think that's a little bit too RNG. I think that Engram sort of has the same problems to a certain degree that Avalok the Sage does. I think the card likely is more of like a new game mode card, like sort of like Avalok the Sage. There is potential to it. What do you think you're into?
I mean, this card, the biggest problem I have with it is that you choose first, and then you see that you got awful special cards, which there are a lot, to be fair. Like, I like that it's really hard to figure out when to play this card, and where to play this card, because
Yeah.
sometimes you get like Commander's Horn, and then you play it, and you like the best choice is like, or you really pray for a Mandrake. This is this is a lot more RNG based than
I agree.
effects we have seen. The choose 1 effect. So I like it the least, and I think it's the least powerful too.
I agree as well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I mean, if even the best case potential is not that good, right? I mean, this with Commander Thorn, not that good. This with Barclay Els, pretty good to be honest,
Well,
but not that
I
good.
I was thinking about that, right? But then you have to run Barclay Elves. You have to run dwarves in your deck, so that means you're probably playing movement. But then what golds do you cut for movement to give yourself a chance at another Barclay? Because the problem is a lot of Silver Squattel units aren't that good, really. Sometimes you find like a good ambush card that you might want, and your opponent has no idea what it is because it's off of that, so they have no idea. But sometimes you get a card like Malena, or you get like Barclay Elves without any dwarves in your deck. And initial thoughts are this card is really good with Spellitel. When I first saw this, I thought, okay, Spellitel is going to be really good. But then I remembered that the new Geralt card exists that resets all units, and I think Spellitel is going to really struggle to find a place in the metagame as long as Yrden is even like slightly popular, because it's an auto lose. You can stagger around Scorch, you can play around certain effects. They only can coral one of your things. You can sort of try to play around certain cards. Yrden, or however you say the name, I again know I'm butchering it, just resets everything, and it just really destroys Spellitel. No matter if you're playing Farseers or Mahaka Mail, it's like a huge counter to the deck. So I don't even think Icingram can find play in that. Not because I think it would be bad in it, but because I don't think the deck is going to exist.
Yeah, looks a lot like I agree, like a to me like other game mode kind of card. Yeah.
All right, moving on to the final faction is Skellig A. We got 3 cards here remaining. Up first is Bone Talisman. It's a special card. It's again a choose one. It's resurrect a bronze beast or heal an ally and strengthen it by 3. So it's basically resurrect a raging bear / whatever that 7 strength bear is that like damages by 1 things that come on the field.
The cursed.
Yeah, the cursed bear.
Did we really forget? Like this was a meta card one.
Yeah. At one point that card.
Yeah.
At one point that card did its damage before the deploy effect worked, and you would just make people cry. They would just play their
Savage Bear. Right?
Savage Bear. You're right. Yeah. So basically, it's choose one, resurrect a Savage Bear or Raging Bear, or it's take the heal portion of Mardrome. And without seeing.
Or the 12 strength bear after your raging berserk.
Yeah. That's the Raging Bear, I think.
Okay, the raging.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay, you got that.
the thing is, there may be more bronze beasts coming, but at the moment there are not that many. There are 2 bronze beasts in Skellig A, and neither of them are that appealing to res. What do you thought?
Man, I want to see the bear deck. That's all I got, man. This card is again like looks a lot to me like I want to compare this to the first card we looked at, the scale shield.
Yeah.
We need some. We gotta get some item tutor card that works with this. Otherwise, this is like beyond terrible. Why wouldn't you Freya your bears?
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. Not a lot to say. I think the card is pretty bad. I don't think it's meant to necessarily be super competitive unless there are a lot of item synergies coming. Maybe, it's to make Camby great again. You just keep resurrecting that Raging Bear over and over again, and they just can't kill it enough times, and then Camby goes off.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Up next, we have Darren or Duran. I'm not actually sure again on the pronunciations. We have a 5 strength silver unit here, and he's pre-nerf Axeman. Whenever an enemy is damaged, boost this unit by 1. What are your thoughts here?
So, pre-nerf Axeman was pretty good, to be fair. And then now it's a silver card. And it's cursed. I think it's good. I mean...
Okay, you think it's... Okay.
I mean, because you can package this guy. You can play Udarik in this and the Skial, and then you get one of these 2 in X-Men. That's powerful, I think.
Well, I wasn't sure how to feel about this card. I did enjoy playing the old Axeman a lot. Axeman is in a very, I think, pretty bad spot, to be honest, at the moment. I don't think the deck is that good. I think it
Yeah,
really
it is.
it really benefits more from like just catching people off guard and like people not teching for it at all in the current meta, rather than actually being like a good deck. And I think that what's interesting is Matisse mentioned this, being a big Axeman player himself. The Axemen already have a lot of power in long rounds, and you may not always need this Duran to win that, and it may be better to just run a silver card that helps your shorter round potential, and that you might not need this card necessarily.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I
So
mean, I don't think it's like very good, but I see potential there in like some cursed package in Skellig A, or maybe even like some hybrid deck. It's not. I mean,
here's
it's pretty weak, but whenever an enemy is damaged, man, that happens a lot.
okay. Then let me give you this one though. So it doesn't have a Twirsok tag though, and it does the Twirsok tag. It doesn't have that, and it's not a veteran, so it will not strengthen continuously like Axemen do.
Yeah,
So
you don't need that.
it's pretty good. I mean, a veteran tag is pretty useful.
Yeah, of course. Veteran tag is probably like worth as much as a point, and this has only 5 points, which is weak. And you probably don't want to resurrect this guy. So with Sigrifa, it's pretty expensive to be honest.
I'm on the
So
fence
yeah,
about it. I'm on the fence.
yeah,
That's where I am right now.
I think it looks bad, but the the curse tag might save this somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I do think that Cursed is going to be getting. I think Cursed is looking to be a pretty viable. I think Cursed is already close to being a I mean, it is a. You could.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I think Cursed is really close to being like up there, like more than just pretty good. Like just it's up there, and there are a lot of cards that are coming that are starting to give this more and more. CDPR is constantly giving more and more support to this archetype, especially in this last card, which I actually think is this is in my top 5 cards at the moment. It's the Heim. From those of you who are aware of the lore or unaware, this is the card that is in Udalric's, or this is the demon that basically takes over Udalric's mind and is the one that is messing with him, the one that causes him to self-wound. And basically, he is a cursed 2-strength gold Skellig A card with a choose one effect that reads, play a cursed unit from your deck, similar to, like, for example, Rain Farn, play a spy from your deck, or spawn a silver unit from your opponent's deck. And I think this card is really, really powerful. It's slightly weaker than Rain Farn, I think, because playing a spy it currently is very, very powerful with all the synergy, and Rain Farn is a 5-strength card, so that is something to keep in mind. And on average, a cursed unit will not be as good as playing a spy. But I do think that Heim has a lot of potential as well, because he does also give you the option to spawn a silver unit from your opponent's deck. Usually your opponent plays very good cards. You get to choose one of the 3. That has a lot of potential. Also, a really interesting interaction is through silver spies. I think spies are still very, very powerful, and spawning a silver unit from your opponent's deck and stealing their spy a lot of the times could be really broken. Those are my thoughts on the card. Andy, what about you?
I think I like this, man, to be fair. I think they've been careful with this for a good reason.
I agree.
Like, it's weak. It's weak on the base strength, and you may not get the best value out of that all of the time, but
I think it's good.
I think I would play this in Cursed at the moment.
I would too.
So, I mean, you play a Cursed unit from your deck, like, if Geralt, this is good, I think. I think Skel at 7 base strength could be a pretty good gold card. And this is better than that. So I like it.
I think it's really good.
And you have the alternative, which probably most of the time it's not going to be crazy, but sometimes it's very good.
I think it's usually decent enough that if it's like, I don't know how.
If you hit the spy with this, is not. Yeah, I mean,
It can be pretty good if you hit the spy with this, I think. I think hitting the spy with this would be pretty decent. I also think there's some merit to going Heim Skjold into pulling the Udalric with the Skjold off of the Heim, and you've played like a loss of 5 points to get a card. I think that would be super nuts as well.
I like you. And then round 2, you play this into the opponent's spy and draw into your own spy, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I do think that there's a lot of potential with abusing silver spies with this card.
And then they play a gold card and you circle
Yeah,
spy,
summoning circle their spy,
and then
yeah.
you ignite them all away. That's of course a very niche and fancy scenario, but yeah, I like this. I mean, you get to choose between 3 options of the opponent's silver. I mean, there gotta be something in there, right?
Yeah, there's got to be something in there that's decent.
I can't. Can you imagine like 3 rebel in a class?
I can't
3
imagine 3 silvers that are actually like bad personally. Like
Yeah.
that you just like straight up don't want because they're just like almost 0 value.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still. I think the curse is a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. You
Because
definitely.
even if you roll a Joachim out, it's not that crazy. So
Yeah. Even if you roll the Joachim, it's still like, yes, you're gaining 5 points, but you're not able to choose, and choosing what you play is very powerful as well. Arguably even worth the 5 points. So I think I do think it's gonna be you pick the first one more than the latter, but I think it's still really, really powerful. All right, that is all the cards that have been revealed. Anyone put you on the spot? What are your top 3 cards at the moment? Like, they don't have to even be in order if you don't have an order for them. Just what 3?
I got an order, man.
Okay, let me hear them then. Lay them on me. Your 3 strongest cards. Start from 3 and then hit 1, and then I'll go as well.
Strongest? Okay, strongest. So not favorites. So only strong. Yeah.
Well, how about this?
Okay.
Give me your 3 strongest, and then give me your personal favorite, the one you're most excited for.
Okay, I like that.
I like that too.
So I give the strongest card of the set. Like, we evaluate, of course, that a bronze card is a bronze card. So I give the strongest card to my boy, the Viper School Witcher.
All right.
Strongest card of the set we've seen so far.
All
For
right.
a bronze card, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I gotta give it to the Letho.
Okay.
Not so. And the third strongest one is the Weavis, in my opinion. The Weavis.
The Weavis. Oh, okay, yeah.
Looks good to me.
All right, yeah, I can agree with all those. I'm a little curious. What made you put Weavis up there? Because I do think the card is strong. Are you evaluating that you think the card alone is strong, or that the card has like will be in will make Relic like a really good deck, or do you just think the card alone is strong?
Man, I think the card is strong. Yeah. I think this card. I would play this card. I think.
Do you
already?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit sure. Monster Gold, not that crazy, and this card is very decent. I think. I can't imagine. Under these secret monster cards that are to be revealed, there is not one decent relic.
Yeah, I have to agree.
So, and if there is like 15 strength relic, like, just, it's already pretty good. I don't know, and I wouldn't underestimate the strength of the relic too. I mean, if you have 10 relics, man, 5 relics, 7, okay. So I like this. Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah. All right, okay. And then, what is your favorite card? Lay it on me.
My favorite card, Lesser Demons, man. This card. I love these guys.
I do. Yeah.
Man, I love these guys. Are so. Oh, they are so nice for being demons. Like nicest demons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I think it's gonna be so exciting if you jam that card into a deck, and like you can do very cool things with that. I'm trying this, even
Let
though it's pretty bad.
your opponent goes Vesemir, gives you the Foul Ale. You go Lesser
Oh,
Demons, pick up your OP gold card, discard the Foul Ale, emote, and your opponent concedes.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah. If only people would play
yeah,
Foul Ale.
yeah,
We should probably like, tell people that Foul Ale is crazy before this card comes out.
yeah, yeah.
And
Be one
and then
up on
I
the
don't know.
tech. Yeah, yeah.
Nah. Yeah, I give the Peasant Militia because we gotta give the peasants some love, man. The peasants, I mean, that we have so little peasant cards in the deck for now.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, man. I'm so mad. I'm going to private message Bertha right now about this. We need more peasants, underrepresented. They're
Yeah.
such a big part of the society in The Witcher.
Yeah, the proletariat mass will rise again, keeping the
Yeah,
peasants down. Yeah.
yeah, man. I wanna play the peasants like, bam, 10 peasants, again 10 peasants, again 10 peasants, and bring that Emir down, man.
Yeah, yeah, bring him down.
And he plays his spies and I Yennefer them all up. Man, this woman looks angry to me, man.
Yeah.
Oof. I like this. Okay.
All right.
What's your are you giving yours too?
Yeah, yeah. I'll give my opinion
Oh,
what the three strongest cards are, and then I'll go with with my favorite as well. So I don't think I really have an order at the moment. I think yeah, I'm not really sure on the order, so I'll just sort of talk about them. Letho Kingslayer. I think this card is nuts. We've already talked it into the ground, so yeah, I think Letho is insane. I'm pretty excited. I think like Letho is one of my favorite characters. I like him a lot. He's on the ground there. Some of you might recognize him from The Witcher 2, stabbing I mean, the game's like 6 years old at this point. Spoiler alert, click away now. This is like full test. Clearly, you can see the patches on him. It's really cool. I like the way that they do, like, they put the lore into the cards. So, yeah, he's killing full test. Throwback to Witcher 2. My next one is Heim. I think this card actually has a lot of potential. I think Cursed is getting a lot of support. It's always getting better each expansion. I think this card is really, really powerful, and I think it's going to just keep getting more and more so as more cards get revealed. And then my final one that I think is still really powerful, that I really think is going to be good, is the Geralt Yrden, or however you say it, for a card that I like a lot. Sure don't know how to say it, but reset all units and remove their tokens, I still think is really powerful. Even if the meta is like not super like hardcore, like this card destroys everything, I think there's still enough matchups where this card is going to be really good that you can just jam it into your Skellig A deck or jam it into a lot of other decks and really hard counter what a lot of people are doing. I think removing the tokens shouldn't be underestimated at all. It removes spy tags, it removes resilience. It's a good hard counter. At 10 strength, it's not really going to ever lose you the game if you have to play it. And then my favorite card, I mentioned it earlier, back at it again. It's still Selkirk. I think Duel is such a cool mechanic. I hope we see it
oh yeah,
explored more.
that's a good one. Yeah.
He's got such a cool premium, totally crafted in the sky, day one. I think it's awesome personally. I really hope we see the duel mechanic further explored. Also, I hope that we see better Scoia'tael cards, because Scoia'tael is my favorite faction, and I would love to see some more Scoia'tael love, because I'm going to be honest,
Man,
I'm a
what
little...
are you, man? Berger?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell hype, man. I dislike the so far. But
I...
I'm not the biggest Square fan
What
overall.
yeah, I think the cards are pretty underwhelming for Scoia'tael. We still got like 17 more to go. So yeah, what are you hoping to see? I guess that's what I'll ask to wrap this up. What are you
That's a good
hoping
question.
what are you hoping to see with our other, 90 cards to be revealed?
So, I think they kind of talked a bit about that. We'll see a lot of silver and gold cards too, and I want them to on the neutral cards they released, like that they keep this being the thing, like neutral cards, neutral gold and silver tech cards, utility cards, meme cards. Okay, that's what they're doing. No muzzle, no skills. Like these cards are. I kind of dislike them a bit if they are like too easy to include. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I want silvers and golds to be more to embrace the faction identity a bit more, like Weavers, like Letho, you know, that's cool. Like tutor cards, cards that you have the synergy going, or even this archetype, and I think archetypes are a good thing in the for see them pushed as well, and let them just do that. I want I want them to do that.
Yeah,
Neutral cards, yeah, should be they should be careful about neutral cards and really embrace the synergies within a faction and archetypes with gold and silvers, and print bronze cards like crazy. I want to see cards. I just want to see cards, man. But I like what they've done so far, so I'm optimistic about that.
Yeah, I actually agree with everything you said. I think it goes a long way to like making each game feel diverse when like golden neutrals aren't just auto includes. Like when everyone's just jamming Eskel or Muzzle in a deck, it can feel sort of bad because when a card's too good and every deck has access to it, it can feel sort of bad. So I really agree. I love what they're doing with neutrals so far. I think you make a really good point about Yurden being a phenomenal tech card. In the wrong meta, he could be sort of bad. So I do actually like your point about that. So I really liked what the direction they're taking it. Something I would like to see explored like further is Letho is a good example of a card in Spies, or I mean in Nilfgaard, that isn't just strictly a spy card, and I like that. As much as I love Spies, I really want them to keep exploring more archetypes of Nilfgaard that isn't just like mill and Spies. I like that they're pushing this like alchemy type now, or that last patch they tried to use Venedal Elite to push reveal. I like that the other factions have many ways to play when it feels like Nilfgaard is sort of just Spies, and I want them to continue pushing this this like really cool idea of Nilfgaard isn't just Spies and that they're pushing these other, you know, cards along. I really like that. And then the other thing I'd really like to see is I would actually like to see some more ambush units in Scoia'tael. It's a big part of like identity for Scoia'tael, not just like in lore and in Gwent too. That like for a long time the ambush was kind of like a thing, like old Shiru and stuff, for example.
I love that card.
Yeah, like
man.
I actually would really love to see Scoia'tael have more synergy with like ambush cards, or like I would like there to be somewhat similar to like secrets in Hearthstone, where like you have to it takes a lot of skill to play around like the secrets at like the maximum efficiency. I think that would be really cool if there was like one or two more ambush cards that were good enough to see play, so that people had to play around them certain ways. Because as of right now, it's sort of just if you see ambush, it's okay, play around Marin. Okay, it's not Marin, and then you go about your day. I would like to see maybe one or two more ambush cards that were good enough to see play come in. So I agree with you. I'm super happy with the game is going. I tweeted it at Burrs. I tweeted it at Gwent or after the stream. I'm super excited for the direction of the game. I think they've got awesome balancers and their card arts are phenomenal. They're sticking true to the game and what's made it good. They're learning from their mistakes. I'm really happy with the direction the game is going. So I'm confident that we're going to see it go in the right direction for sure. I really am happy with the way they're pushing certain archetypes and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. Any closing words, Andy?
Nah, man. I think we covered like a lot of stuff. I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.